Hey there, fellow creators. Ben here from Timbra Studios, and welcome to How to Be an Artist Part 15, Seller's Remorse. Stick around. So this past week, at least at of time of recording, I sold a painting, which I do periodically, from my art collective's gallery, Red Fishbowl Studios. Well, really, it's my art manager that sold it for me. It was one of three pieces that was inquired about from an online listing. It was like, hey, I have a potential buyers interested in one of these three, or maybe all of these three paintings. Can you bring them in? I said, okay, sure. And as I was collecting them from around the house, both in storage and what I had still hanging up, I saw one. It was like, hey, I like this piece a lot. It was actually one of my better ones from that year, I think 2016, I think. There's a video of it here on the channel. And I was looking at it and I was like, shit, I probably should have charged more for this, because this is a better piece. And I was like, is it possible to bump this up maybe an extra 50 bucks? And it's like, well, it was already listed for a certain price online, we should probably stick to that. I'm like, shit. Well, all right. And of course, it was like, I was hoping, like, maybe that won't be the one of the three that goes. Nope, it was the only one of those three that sold. And I was simultaneously very happy. I'm always happy to get the paycheck from a sold painting. But I've had it for so long, and I really like the piece. It's not, I don't necessarily like everything I make, at least that much. So as soon as it was gone, I was like, oh man, that one I liked. There's very few that I actually will keep, too. I have about a dozen that after I finish them, I'm like, no, I like this too much, I'm keeping this one. I'm not going to put it in the sale pile. And that one was pretty borderline. I had had it at this point for since I made it, so 5 years or 4 or 5 years now. And I was like, I probably should have kept that one. I liked it. It was also one that did garner a lot of interest. I think people said it reminded them of this thing from Lord of the Rings that I don't know. But not what it was based on or anything, but that's what it reminded people of, so that's why I think garnered a lot of attention. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's really bad for me to do that to myself for pieces, because, I mean, after about 2012, when I started doing this as a business, I started to kind of have to tell myself, like, look, you're making it to sell it. If you make it and it's nice, and you can keep a couple of them, but don't keep all of them. You have to make these things to sell them. And if you're wanting to do this as a business, this being painting or art or whatever you happen to be doing, you can't have that level of personal attachment with all of your pieces. And that's hard to do because it's something you created with your hands. You generally, as creatives, we're proud of the things we put out, usually. If you've been doing it long enough, you're like, yeah, this was a good piece, I want to get it out there. But when it's gone, sometimes there is some people say buyer's remorse when you buy something. It's like, oh, why did I buy that? But a seller's remorse for a creative is a equally distressing thing, I think, because you have this point of like, oh, it's gone. Huh. And the only way you can have it again is to get a print of it, if you had a good enough picture in the first place. And I think I did for that one, so I could probably get some prints of that made. Or just look at the picture of it that you have, but you don't have the physical piece anymore. Actually, for that piece, I have a video, so I'm thinking, well, I have a little more connection with it than if it was just a photograph. But I was thinking about this week, and I'm like, yeah, this is really one of those things that is something of a creative conundrum, so to speak. And it's one of those things that can feel a little bit crippling as an artist, or even as a professional, knowing that like your babies are gone, sort of thing. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? It has given me a lot of joy over the years, and it's time for me to pass that on so someone else can enjoy it. Now, I'm specifically doing this video here today because this piece behind me, I already have a buyer for. I painted this back in November. I really like this piece. But because I know I already have a buyer for it, I'm probably going to bump the price up a little more than I would normally at a piece this size. Also because it took a lot of work to do that. This was one of the more complicated things I've done in the past few years. But I was like, this is one of those ones that's going to be really hard to get rid of because I like it. And there aren't a lot of pieces like that I really like to the point where I have a hard time selling. But as a professional, if you're going to be doing this, everything has to be on the table for sale. Also, you're not going to live forever. You got to get rid of the pieces eventually, unless you just want to pass them down in your family and somebody likes them that way. But not always the case, especially for the volume of work that a professional artist will produce in their life. Your family doesn't have the capacity to store all that stuff, let alone be willing to hold on to that much of it. Usually, there are families of famous artists that have larger collections, but generally speaking, for a working artist today, your family's not going to keep everything you've ever made. They want to unload it, and it's better that it goes and sells to a art collector than to just end up in a bargain basement pile at a rummage sale in 20, 30 years. So whatever you make, my tips for this one, whatever you make it with the intention that it will not be in your hands forever. As hard as that can be for some paintings. For something like this, I'm kind of, the reason I'm holding on for as long as I have, even knowing I already have a buyer lined up for it, is saying, I want to enjoy it for a while. Let me enjoy what I've done. It's usually by the time I finish the next painting or the next two that the allure of whatever I just finished has worn off, and that's getting there. I would say probably in about 2 months, maybe end of summer, I'd be willing to sell this one now. But for the time being, I'm still enjoying it. It was fun to do. It was also a pain in the butt to do. And it's okay to enjoy the pieces you've made for a while, but don't hold on to them forever. And again, the way to look at it really is, it might bring you some joy to do the piece and to have the piece, but as an artist, one of our greatest gifts is to bring joy and culture to the world. And in doing so, you have to let your pieces go. Because if you don't, you're gonna just be an art hermit and live in your own pile of mess for the rest of your life. And if you're a creator of any kind, your ability to bring joy and to bring creativity and to bring just a sense of cultural change in the mindset of the world is one of your greatest gifts beyond just making pieces. So if you can get a piece in someone else's hand that inspires them, that improves their life to some way, then you've done your job. But if you hold on to it forever and are selfish that way, it's gonna only probably make you miserable in the long run. So that's my thoughts for today on how to be an artist. Get rid of your pieces, but don't forget to enjoy them too. It's okay to like the pieces you make, but it's also not okay to hold on to them for the rest of your life. So if you enjoyed this, learned something, or just generally like hearing me rant, hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts on this in comments below. Get subscribed if you're not already. Keep on creating, and I will see you guys next time. This one, once I figure out how to frame this, I want to put this on a t-shirt, on like the side, so like lower side going down the thing. But yeah, I want to like digitize this and turn it into a t-shirt. A lot of people like this piece. I've sold a bunch of prints of this. But it's on paper, so it's hard to, I gotta find a way to sit it under glass and probably get it onto like a cradled board or something. But I really like this one too.